Friday should be partly to mostly sunny near 90. Jonesboro's community radio station, we're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in Brussels, I'm Jack Parrock. Many are trying to digest a 23-minute impromptu press conference by US President Donald Trump in which he said protesters on the far right were the same as counter-protesters from the far left. Sierra Leone has issued an urgent plea for help 1 day after flash floods ravaged parts of the capital, Freetown. The British government says it wants continued free travel and movement of goods between the UK and Ireland after it leaves the European Union.
It's 9:01.
Community Conversations is brought to you by Arkansas Early Learning, offering no-cost childcare in Jonesboro and Northeast Arkansas. Applications at arearlylearning.org.
Arkansas Early Learning is a nonprofit organization.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM, good morning to you on your Wednesday. It's August 16th, 2017. You may have to get the other headphones. I think them out to change them out. Yeah. Of course, that's the beauty of radio. I have to always think with stuff. But anyway, enough about that. This is Community Conversations. Kato Wonder is in the studio with you. I have Ms. Quabila Jones-Harden, our lovely host, with us today. And joining us today is the newest member of the Jonesboro City Council, Mr. L.J. Bryant. He is representing Ward 5, Position 1. And he actually was recently appointed to this position after the councilman who had the seat before him moved away, and so now he's kind of getting his feet wet. We're going to talk to him about his views on what it's like to be on the council, some of the things that he learned, some of his positions on some of the issues, and what his future is looking like going forward. So we want to thank Mr. Bryant for stopping by the studio today.
Hey, good morning. Honored to be here.
Good morning. So, since this is your first time gracing us with your presence, can you please tell the listeners and viewers a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah.
You know, where you come from, maybe some of your educational background, just so they can get to know who you are.
Yeah, you betcha. So, I'm L.J. Bryant. We live, obviously, in Jonesboro.
Okay.
With my wife, Rebecca, we live over near Central Baptist.
Okay.
And we own Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, and I sell some real estate. And then my wife owns a hair salon, high-maintenance salon on South Caraway.
Okay.
And we go to Southwest Church of Christ. So, that's kind of us in a nutshell.
All right. Do you have any children?
We don't have any children, no ma'am.
Alrighty. So, maybe that'll be in the works a little later on. All right. So, what drew you to being a part of the city council?
You know, I guess this sounds cliche, but wanting to make a difference.
Want to make a difference.
You know, I remember whenever our Alderman Dolder resigned, seeing it in the newspaper, and it said, you know, you had to apply. You know, I thought about it and prayed over it that weekend, and I thought, well, I think I could be a good fit for this. And it was a quick process. You know, 8 people applied, and then the council ultimately chose somebody, so it was really an honor to be chosen. I look forward to serving.
That's wonderful. And so, were you, I'm going to say, nervous in the process, or did you feel very confident during the times you went to your interview with the rest of the council members and the mayor?
Well, you know, the council members were all very kind to listen to all of us, and I thought they were very diplomatic and, you know, didn't publicly take any positions, but, you know, they listened to all of us. We presented ourselves to the council, and then ultimately, you know, they went into executive session and then came out, and, you know, there was only a 1 in 8 chance of being chosen. So, I mean, you know, my philosophy with anything is you do the best you can. And as long as you knew you did 100%, win, lose, or draw, you did all you could do. So that was the attitude I tried to go into it with.
All right. So what was the feedback from your family when you told them that you were going for this?
Yeah, no, I'm very lucky. I wouldn't have done it if my wife wasn't supportive. Because, you know, there's a family element to it. You know, if you're going to be at meetings or be out late or take lots of phone calls, you know, you got to have your family on board. And then sometimes they're part of it. They'll be out, and somebody will say, "Well, hey, you know, tell your husband so and so." So I'm really blessed to have a great wife that's supportive.
All right, and so I know that you're, you know, still new to the game, and as you were talking off air, there's a lot of reading. Yeah. There's a lot of ordinances and a lot of laws and other things you need to get to know, the rules, regulations, policies, and all of that good stuff. So, last night was your first council meeting.
It was, yeah.
So what was that like?
Yeah, no, it was really exciting. You know, I mean, leading up to it, kind of like what you were saying, we were sitting here kind of joking. The back of your phone had like, the book nerd and all this kind of stuff. And I'm the same way. I love to read. Okay. But, you know, last night we had an 8-page agenda for the council meeting. God. And a lot of the attachments, because there's attachments, like hyperlinks you can click on that are like supporting documents for the different ordinances and type things. I mean, some of those might be 100 pages, you know. But I love it. I love details. I love numbers. I love data. And so it's really been a lot of fun. And in the last 2 weeks, I've spent time visiting, you know, police chief, fire chief, I mean, you name it, all the different department heads to really learn hands-on, because you may think you understand what that department does, but you really don't until you go there and try to learn. So I'm trying to get my head around all the information so that I can make good, informed decisions when matters come before the council.
And there definitely will be some very important, some very tough decisions that you will have to make. And of course, one of them, I don't know if it came up in this past meeting, but one of the things that has been a very charged issue in the city is the issue of various, you know, apartment developments that have been proposed, and you know, there's a contingent of citizens that have been vehemently opposed to these developments. Or just what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think it's really important to listen to all citizens. And in the last 2 weeks, I've heard from lots and lots of folks. I mean, particularly on the apartments that would be at the end of Gladiola's Drive, and visited with a lot of people, and particularly Nettleton School administration and Nettleton School employees that are concerned about the impact it would have on the school district. Because something that was interesting to me that I guess I wouldn't have really thought about in visiting with those folks is that, due to the fact that I always say we have 5 school districts, because I count West Side and Brooklyn, that a lot of the students, particularly in the Jonesboro and Nettleton districts, they kind of move back and forth. Maybe they live in a certain apartments or a certain house, then they move to the other. So the transient nature of folks creates a challenge for the school districts, because it's hard to educate somebody if 6 months later maybe they're in an entirely different school district. And so I think on the rezoning decisions, I mean, nothing's more important than our children. I mean, that's the future of the city. And so I think we've got to make all those decisions in close regard to how it impacts the school districts.
Once again, we are speaking with the newest member of the Jonesboro City Council, Mr. L.J. Bryant. If you have a question for Mr. Bryant, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. Or you can leave your questions and comments on our Facebook Live feed. We have a Facebook shout-out. Shout-out to Jeff Presley. I appreciate you for checking in, Mr. Presley.
And as I'm looking through the agenda from last night, I don't think people really realize all of the different things that you all have to discuss, and how much time and thought has to go into making a final decision that is going to benefit the citizens of Jonesboro and Craighead County as well. So we really thank you all for the time and energy you put in. I did see, I think, a news flash. I get these pop up that no decision was made on no vote was cast for the apartments.
Right, correct, on Harrisburg Road. So per city council rules, as of now, the developer had the right to pull the proposal. So it was on the agenda Friday, but then over the weekend the developer decided to pull it from the agenda. Okay. And so it was pulled from the agenda as they, I think, probably are trying to work on the second access point to Parker Road. So
alrighty. And this is why, you know, the residents of the city need to go out to these meetings, hear what's being said, and voice their opinion. But in the meantime, they need to get to know who their council members are and talk to them so that they can also get their voice heard. You know, and when you're in a special meeting, you can say, okay, my constituent said X, Y, Z. And hopefully it can, I don't want to say push the process along, but help the process.
Well, it matters. I mean, absolutely. I mean, the Gladiola's apartments, that petition has over 1,000 signatures against it. So, I mean, certainly I've studied many aspects of all of it, but I mean, I looked at every one of the 1,000 signatures, you know, and a lot of times it's your neighbors and it's your friends, it's your family, it's people you go to church with. But, I mean, all people are of equal importance, whether you know them or not. But I mean, 1,000 people, I mean, that really makes an impact. And what's so awesome in 2 weeks is to see people, regardless of who agrees or doesn't agree, but just to see people that care that much. I mean, there's been people like knocking on doors on this, and they have nothing to gain. They just care about the future of their area. And so, and just like this show, I mean, it's just awesome for y'all to take time to visit with us, because a lot of times, kind of what you said about knowing a council person or any elected official, sometimes people don't care until it's too late,
Yes.
you know, because you're living your daily life and doing your thing, and then all of a sudden an issue comes up, and you're like, gosh, I don't even know who those people are, you know. So to build that relationship ahead of time.
Yes, and that's, what we try to do is have each member on, even if it's only for a short segment, just so they can let the residents know this is what's been going on, this is what's been discussed, this is what's been voted on, this is the action that's going to be taken, and then the residents then have the opportunity to contest if they so choose, or whatever needs to happen after that. Okay, so have you had an opportunity to meet the majority of your constituents from your ward?
Well, I've visited with a lot of folks. I mean, certainly, the ward's, fairly large. So one thing I intend to do, and Alderman McLean did this, he's done some meet and greets, and so I'd like to replicate that. Okay. I know he did one at a fire station on Brazos, and I'd like to do one at the fire station near Central Baptist,
Okay.
So, but to go out and meet people, and then, use Facebook, other means to let folks know that you're going to be there to visit. And so I'm eager to visit. My cell phone is 819-7218. So if anybody wants to call me, visit, text, my email's lbryant@jonesboro.org. I love to hear from folks and to visit.
And while Kobe's writing that down, one thing that several of our listeners feel very strongly and passionately about, especially Mrs. Norma Farrell, shout out to you if you're listening, is the JET system. There are citizens who would love to see JETs get extended hours, weekend hours, so that they could attend Red Wolves games on Saturdays and church services on Sundays, and people who work on weekends who may not have transportation, who use JETs during the week to get to and from work, would love to see JETs being extended. And I know that have been some people who have come to some meetings in the past to speak out, and I think there are future plans to come out to meetings to express this. So I just want to get your thoughts on the JET situation.
Well, I would say overall, and then I'll make this apply to JETs in just a second, that in a city of 70-some-odd thousand people now, and as we grow by 3% or so a year, that we have to realize there are many folks who either can't drive, don't have a car, or however you want to look at it, that we have to look at alternative forms of transportation, and that's bicycle paths, it's sidewalks, it's JETs, it's all of those things, and much like anything in government, we have to make hard decisions when it comes to budgetary matters, but I think it's important that we have access to the city for all folks, and for them to be able to access essential services. So, and people don't realize JETs, and you mentioned this, like the football games downtown, people can park downtown, and then JETs is providing rides to ASU. So, JETs has a lot of applications for lots of people. So, I think it's important that we take a look to make sure that people have access to it to get where they need, work and play and church and all those things.
And one thing, like we try to stress all the time, in order for changes to happen, people have to make their voices heard. So it's one thing for us to sit here and have a conversation about what we've heard the people say they need. The people need to come out to the meetings and say, this is what we need. Yes, the council can make a decision, but you're in essence on the outside looking in. Mm-hmm. Unless you ride the bus on a daily or weekly, you only get a singular view.
Well, you're so right, and to see something at the right time. So in other words, I've had a lot of concerns, even though it's not in my ward, a lot of concerns like sidewalks on North Patrick. Well, you would really need to be there at the right time. If it was Friday afternoon at 10 in the morning, that might not be the right time if you're trying to see the kids walking to school, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's important for people to maybe tell us what the problem is, and if it's a traffic issue, sidewalk issue, say, gosh, you need to drive by at 3 o'clock on Friday and see it, because to see it at the right time is important.
And we have a Facebook shout out. Shout out to Kara Love. Appreciate you for checking in on our Facebook live stream.
Oh, that Kara from Italy? Oh my goodness.
Well, she has a picture of her face in black and white. So
yeah, this a member from USB Records. Thank you, Kara, for checking in.
Okay, well, appreciate you checking in from Italy.
Yeah.
Well, that's all right. Once again, we are speaking with Mr. L.J. Bryant. He is representing Ward 5, Position 1, the newest member of the Jonesboro City Council. And another issue that has come up in the past, and this is something that we ask people during the campaign season, the issue of ward-based versus at-large voting. Now, are you more in favor of the current system in which the entire city elects each alderman or alderman, the people who actually live in that ward just directly elect the alderman, or a hybrid system where some seats, let's say position 1 may be at large and position 2 is ward only based. So what are your thoughts on that issue?
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, and I'm beginning to spend a little time to look into that issue. Like, for example, Conway, I do believe I think it's 8 positions. I believe they have 4 wards instead of 6, and they actually do exactly what you just said. They have 2 positions per ward, and 1 runs at large and 1 runs in the ward. And then in Little Rock, of course, Little Rock obviously a larger city than us, Little Rock has a city manager form of government, so it's a little bit different. But their city directors, as they call them, instead of council people, they have 2 at-large positions, then everybody else runs warded. So I would really like to spend some time to study the issue, but for me, the desired outcome is to make sure that the most number of people are represented. And so, there's a struggle there that, obviously I represent Ward 5, but I'm elected citywide. Okay. So I of course care and want to know all the issues of the city, yes. And my constituents are also all the people of all the city, and that's all positive. On the other hand, a person can make the argument that if you obviously ran only in your ward, you would only need to be concerned about X, Y, Z, yes. And you wouldn't have to be worried. However, the matters that come before the council, for example, we voted on a rezoning last night. Well, it wasn't in my ward, but I still had to vote on it. Yes. So I think there's pros and cons to each. So certainly, I think it's worth studying, and certainly listen to the voters to see what they might want.
I was going to ask you about that. If it switched over to ward only or ward based voting, would it take you off of the? Okay, an issue came before the council, and it was something that was not in your ward. Would you have to be removed from the table basically and not vote on it because, well, those people didn't vote for me, so why am I voting? Why am I making a decision on something that doesn't concern me? That's my concern.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that, because ultimately, kind of as I was saying, the council is going to wind up voting on every issue regardless of what system we have. So if you went to running ward only, the concern to me would be what you just said, is if a person, whoever, said, that's in somebody else's ward, so if that ward's flooding or that ward's doing such, so and so, that's not my primary concern. So under our current system, if with everyone being your constituency, you do, a person should and would care anyway, but politically speaking, a person has everyone as their constituency. We need to care about all parts of the city, because we always have to look at the big picture. For my ward, we've got a lot of traffic problems on Harrisburg Road and Caraway, among other issues in our ward. But I know every ward has issues, and so we have to work together to identify the most important concerns.
Because the thing is, we may live on one side, but then we work and play, like you say, on another side of town. So we don't want to, say, go to work on Highland, and then there's some issues that no one's taking care of, or our people that represent, say, the north side, they didn't have a hand in making the decision, and whatever decision was made may not be the best for everybody. So I don't know, I'm still kind of up in the air on how all that.
And I think what you're saying too, as far as all parts of the city, I know at least for me, and I'm sure most council members feel this way, we want to be invited to other wards to do stuff, just so we see the issues and see what's going on, because ultimately, like you said, we're going to vote on it as a full council, so we want to see the issues in all quadrants of the city.
Well, what I would love to see, and maybe this is something you can put on the table, that I know everyone works full-time jobs and their schedules, don't always collaborate, but maybe doing some city tours, getting together different city council members, just taking a tour of the city so you can see for yourself on a bird's eye view, taking pictures, maybe take some video with those different times of day to see what really goes on, and try to get a first-hand view of the issues that some people report on.
I think you're 100% right, and I'd be there. And we could work with the city attorney to make sure we complied with FOI laws. I think as long as the council members were invited and the press was notified or whatever, then we would be in good shape there. I think that's great. And I know I, as a council member, and probably many others, try to drive by rezonings, or we had 2 condemnations, and I drove by the condemnations, And when I drove by one, I discovered it actually had electricity, and the report said it didn't have electricity. So then they went back to the property owner, and the property owner wound up getting more time because they kind of discovered that guy was back there.
Okay.
So I think it's important that council members be engaged. So if there's a specific address for rezoning, condemnation, you name it, that we try to drive by and investigate it. But back to what you said, man, city tours would be great to see where we have drainage problems, you know, et cetera. I'm on the drainage board. Matter of fact, I just came from the stormwater management board meeting, and so we meet monthly. And so I really want to get engaged on those issues, because I know those issues aren't sexy, quote unquote, but when your street floods, then all of a sudden you're like, well, man, this is super important.
And that's something that we can talk about when we get on the other side of the break, because it is an issue that has often comes up and most likely will come up again. In fact, you know, we had a pretty big rain last week.
We had a big rain yesterday too.
So,
oh gosh.
So, but you know, we'll say that for the other side of the break.
Alrighty. All right. So, any other thoughts on some things that we've talked about so far, just to clarify?
Well, yeah, not necessarily. You know, you mentioned Jeff Presley. I sure was impressed. I toured 911, and those folks don't get near enough credit for what they do.
Yes.
I mean, you've got several people kind of sitting in a dark room taking really difficult phone calls, and they've got computer screens like y'all, and they're trying to decide who to send where. And so there's a lot of city workers that don't get the glory that maybe others do, simply because you don't realize the difficult tasks they have.
That's wonderful, and we hope to, have Mr. Presley on again to give us some updates concerning E911, and we would love for everyone to get more involved. And they have an online service where you can register your address and things like that. So
yeah, Smart 911's awesome.
Yes.
Well, we're get tongue twisted. We're getting ready to go to a break. We're speaking with Mr. L.J. Bryant, Alderman from Ward 5, Position 1 of the Jonesboro City Council. When we come back, we're going to talk about flooding and other issues. And, of course, if you have something on your mind, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080. That's 870-277-1080. Or you can weigh in on our Facebook Live feed. Don't go anywhere. This is KLEK on 2.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Do you know what giving forgiveness really means? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. We think forgiveness is a feeling. We think forgiveness means forgetting. We think forgiveness is a sign of weakness. But forgiveness is not what you think. Here are 3 truths about forgiveness. First, forgiveness is a decision to release. Instead of replaying the incident over and over in your mind, choose not to dwell on how you were wronged. Second, forgiveness is a decision to embrace. Instead of holding on to anger, embrace mercy. Put simply, mercy is not giving someone what they deserve. Third, forgiveness is a decision to pardon. When you pardon your offender by forgiving them, you're letting go of your right to punish them for the offense in the future. Remember, your family first.
For more resources on today's topic, go to markmerrill.com.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook and KNOMEGA1908.com.
Blues Live for 5, Part 2 at Legends Barbecue Smokehouse. Only $5 admission. Saturday, August 19th, 7 o'clock p.m. Featuring from Dallas, Texas, Lerone Powers.
What's the name of that thing? Only last night.
Lerone Powers.
And you're the mother, but don't you get caught. You're gonna have to pay the cost.
Performing all of his hits.
Ain't nothing but a party. Jumping like a hole in the wall.
Lerone Powers. Don't miss it. Blues Live for 5 at Legends Barbecue Smokehouse. Saturday, August 19th, 7 o'clock p.m. Only $5 admission. This event is a KLEK fundraiser.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
Post Consumer Brands is seeking to hire 5 operators at their Jonesboro facility. Post offers good starting pay, 3 weeks of paid vacation, comprehensive benefits, 401k with employee match, and frontline incentives while working 4 days on and 4 days off. More information is available at jobs.postconsumerbrands.com. Post Consumer Brands is an equal opportunity employer.
Hello, I'm Officer Jonathan Hagens of the Jonesboro Police Department. One of the best decisions I ever made was to join the Jonesboro Police Department. Since joining, I've had the pleasure to give back, protect, and serve my community. Now I want to let you know about that same opportunity. The Jonesboro Police Department will conduct testing for the patrol officers at the Valley View High School. Applications are available online at jonesboropolice.com. The Jonesboro Police Department offers a competitive salary, health, and retirement benefits, top-of-the-line training, and most importantly, the chance to make a difference in the Jonesboro community. Join me in making Jonesboro a better place. The Jonesboro Police Department is an equal opportunity employer, and women and minorities are especially encouraged to apply. More information, 870-935-5657.
Applications are being accepted through September 7th, 2017. Applications are available at jonesboropolice.com.
House of Details, located at 3217 Herb Street, Suite C, is a proud supporter of KLEK, offering detailing on any type of vehicle: waxing, clear coat protection, basic wash, hand wash, shampoo, interior cleaning, buffering, headlight restoration, pickup, delivery, and more. With a motto of, anything mean, we can clean. Details available via Quentin Bogard at 870-273-5187. House of Details on Facebook and houseofdetailsjonesboro.com.
Do you like the music you hear on KLEK 102.5 FM? Do you like the educational programming that we provide? Do you like the service we provide to the community? Do you like having a station to finally call your own that represents you? If so, please stop by or call any of our underwriters or sponsors that you hear on KLEK and tell them thank you for their support. The support of our underwriters and sponsors is vital for us to stay on the air. So be sure to let them know that you thank them for their support.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK with our guest, Mr. L.J. Bryant, who is the City Councilman for the Jonesboro City Council for Ward 5, Position 1. And, of course, if you have a question for him, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. Or you can weigh in on our Facebook live feed. Don't see any new shutouts, but we're sure that they are coming. Before we went to break, we were talking about the issue of drainage and flooding. As you know, it rains a lot here in Jonesboro, and when it rains, it pours and it floods. So, Mr. Bryant, just want to kind of get your thoughts on some of the drainage issues facing the city. Especially, you mentioned about the 3% growth per year. Well, as the city grows, people are going to spread out, and the flooding is probably going to spread right with it.
Yeah, well, I would say a couple of things on that. I mean, we know that Jonesboro is the second biggest land mass geographic area of any city. So we're 78.5 square miles. And a city, say Fayetteville, that's a comparable size, or even Fort Smith, they might be more 35 to 45 square miles. So we've got a lot more land area for police and fire and drainage projects and you name it. But as it relates to drainage, what's interesting about drainage is we don't necessarily have a funding mechanism tied to it, So I know that that's been a challenge that we've kind of had to pull from general funds, street funds, whatever. And back to what we said earlier, that, on a day-to-day basis, you're just happy to go about living your life, and you see fire trucks and you see police and you see all those things that are doing really important work. But we don't always think about how important it is that we plan way ahead on drainage projects. And as you said, making sure that we plan for our growth. Because as you said, when the water comes, it comes quick and it needs a place to go. And right now, my family and I, we're building a building on the corner of State and Johnson. So, the new detention requirements, allow some time for the water to sit somewhere while it's slowly released. But all of our older developments, certainly that wasn't in place. And so we've got to think about how to deal with runoff from those developments.
I remember Friday was one day that it rained really bad. I was on my way home, and the driver hit this big water pocket. And if someone was on the side of the road, they would have got totally soaked. And there were times that the drivers, this was going, Road Matthews, going up towards Marion Berry. There were parts where you had to literally get over to the other lane, the inside lane, because the water had pooled so much on the outside lane, because it came down so hard, so fast. It had nowhere to go that quickly. So, and that happens all over town. And we've known, of course, the Ray Street area and back over in there, it floods horribly bad.
Absolutely. And the thing, and it's an obvious point, but I hadn't thought about it much until the last year or so, is that when you pour concrete, you get rid of surface for grass to suck up water, and so that's ultimately why the city's tried to work on detention requirements for new developments. But as we said, for old developments, or before some of the ordinances were changed, that we've had such explosive growth so quickly, and you got so much concrete everywhere and not a lot of grass and not a lot of area to soak up that water. It's created a lot of challenges. And going back to what we said before, where we haven't necessarily had the funding mechanism, as I mentioned earlier, I'm on the Stormwater Management Board meeting representing the City Council, and so we're going to really start to plan ahead and try to plan for funds to make sure that we can do all the projects. I mean, there's never enough money and you'll never get it all done, but to do as much as we can to work on that really important issue.
Okay, I know I always have these scatterbrained ideas, and I'm looking at things from way outside, inside. I'm not an
That's good.
I'm not an engineer by any means, but when it comes to collecting water or putting things in place, I know the retention funds are really great, but maybe having some other reservoir type where the water's running down, there's something that can catch it like from the bottom and sucks it up. I don't know. I have these ideas, and I'm like,
yeah, well, no, I think that's great, and certainly I'd visit with Bill Campbell and the mayor as well, and maybe we could get Craig Light back, the city engineer. I don't know if he's been on the show or not, but he obviously he is the engineer, and he could come and visit and probably flesh out our ideas with his expertise.
Okay, I might could draw something.
Yeah,
like, my idea, but it. Yeah.
And you talked about touring the city to make sure we know our issues here. I know a goal of mine is to visit with counterparts in other cities on what they've done right and wrong. And next week I'm going to spend the day in Batesville with a friend I have that's on the city council over there. They've built a new sports complex and so on and so forth, and they've done a lot to revitalize their downtown. So I'm looking forward to visiting them, and I want to visit with other friends around the state to see, what their cities have done right, done wrong, etc.
And one question that I wanted to bring up, obviously you were appointed to this position, and of course you will fill out the remainder of the term of the person in which you replaced. But once it comes election time, do you have plans to run again? And if so, what would your future plans be?
Yeah, no, I intend to run for the council, absolutely. I mean, as we were just visiting here earlier, I'm spending several hours a day really diving into research, visiting with voters, visiting with city employees to understand the issues. So I certainly want to put my developing expertise, if you will, to work, because there is a learning curve. So I think it's important, to have folks that are engaged. And as we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of time, I think, if you do it right, involved. And I really enjoy it. And I'm lucky to be self-employed and have the flexibility. I got up at 5 this morning, and I worked from about 5 to 8 on some work-related stuff, and then I had an 8:30 meeting at City Hall, and then I'm here, and I've got an 11 o'clock meeting today, and I've got 2 meetings this afternoon with 2 department heads. So I've pretty much done city business from about 8 to 5 today, but I'm lucky to have the flexibility to do so, and it's really an honor to serve, and I hope to have the opportunity to continue to serve.
That's really wonderful, and I hope that the residents that live in your ward get to know you, or take time to get to know you and know what you stand for, and really voice their concerns to you so that things can start moving along with the city council. More things get on the agenda. And we know that there is time allotted at the end of the meetings for people to state their case concerning several issues, but we always try to push. The more you get to know who represents you, talk to them. If enough people voice their concerns, it may become an agenda topic, so that it can have more time to be discussed.
Absolutely. And in visiting with people in the last 2 weeks on a variety of issues, it's amazing things I've learned. I mean, I could sit here and talk for 30 minutes, just random things.
Okay. Well, what are some of those random things? What are some of the issues in which constituents have come to you that they're concerned about?
Yeah, well, one of the things, earlier we mentioned how as much as a third of Nettleton's population is kind of transient, and the impact that has as we consider multifamily housing. So that, for example, is something I didn't consider. And, a couple other elements, and again, these aren't things that you see flashing sirens necessarily that come to your attention, but as we talk about city planning and talk about streets and talk about curb cuts and how close are those curb cuts to intersections, and do we have too many curb cuts? I mean, you take for example on if you make a left on 351 and Hilltop where Come and Go is, there's quite a few curb cuts to get in and out of Come and Go. And ordinances have changed over the years, but we have to be very careful about where we release traffic. I mean, you want people to get in and out of businesses, but to not do so dangerously, as we were talking about traffic earlier. So, there's just a variety of things to think about. And another extension of that, last night we passed a master street plan, but as you think about where roads of the future will be, what they look like, and then also making sure that you secure the right-of-way for sidewalks. Because historically, what the city's often had to do is to go to those property owners and say, please, would you give us some sidewalk? And then now, there's been instances where the property owners have said, hey, show me some money, and then we'll give you a sidewalk. So as we plan for streets in the future, we've also got to plan for sidewalks and bike paths and make sure that we have the property there to do what we need to do. So those are a few random things that, wouldn't occur to you right off that I've learned in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. You've been really busy. You hit the ground running.
It's been fun. It really has been a lot of fun.
Okay. So did your wife get to go to the meeting with you last night?
She did go to the meeting last night. Yeah, she was so sweet. She sat through most of the meeting, then she went home and cooked us dinner. So,
well, you can't beat that.
You can't beat that, no.
We have another Facebook shout-out. Shout-out to Donna Kirksey. Appreciate you for checking in on our Facebook live feed.
Hey, Donna.
All right, so I was trying to look through some of the resolutions. Some of these people may not think are important. There's quite a few. I'm not going to read them all, but just kind of tell us how do these things get on the agenda? And then even though they may seem menial, why they're important.
Yeah, sure. Well, there are a lot of things that go through the council, and as we mentioned last night, we had an 8-page agenda, but in the beginning, and I'm looking at your iPad, so I'm cheating off of you a little bit here, but in the beginning we have what we call the consent agenda, and these are items that came through committees, and the council has several committees that meet monthly. Finance meets twice a month, which I'm on finance, and these consent agenda items are basically non-controversial items, and council members, last night somebody could have pulled it off the consent agenda had they so chosen to do so, but we basically pass those things in a lump. However, back to what you said about importance, I believe one of the consent agenda items, for example, was us having an engineering study of $100 and some odd thousand to help decide where bicycle paths will go in the city. And the importance of that is for us to get any kind of grant funding, etc. We have to have a plan. You apply for a grant and they say, what's your plan? Where would you put these paths and what's your master plan? And so there's many times that there's really important things that may get voted on really quickly just because we have an 8-page agenda. a summary of a council meeting on the news might be kind of a hot topic of like an ordinance, of a rezoning or something. But there's so many other items that often don't get that amount of attention, but they're still really important.
Now, you mentioned that you were on some committees. What all committees are you on the Jonesboro City Council?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Public Works, and that meets once a month right before the City Council meeting, typically, unless there's a special called meeting. And then I'm on the Finance Committee, which meets every other Tuesday. So every Tuesday the council doesn't meet, the Finance Committee does meet. And then I'm also on Stormwater Management Board as a representative of the council. But it's really been a joy, all those things. From stormwater management, we've discussed that quite a bit. But from the finance side, that's really where the rubber meets the road. What's the saying? Show me your checkbook and I'll show you your priorities. And so for the council, it's certainly important for us to be very good stewards of the taxpayer resources and to be very intentional about where all that money goes. And so I've tried to spend a lot of time with the city's chief financial officer, who's been very kind to be helpful and kind of help show me where the city money goes, and of course along the way to try to ask those important questions. Before our meetings on Friday morning, our agenda comes out. So on Friday morning, I'm reading the agenda, I'm reading all the attachments, and then I'm trying to visit with department heads and city employees to ask any questions that I might have.
Now, you mentioned about, the meetings are long, pretty much, and there's a lot on the agenda, but the news picks up, something that seems like it's a hot topic or really important to catch the eye of the community.
Sure.
Like this one on KA, Jonesboro City Council discusses bike trails rezoning requests. And so, obviously, that has been one that has been big. Like you said, people, they need safe spaces to ride, walk, ride their bike and walk. And I guess some people that don't utilize these services like that, they don't see it as a big deal. So how do you get that message across?
I would say it impacts all of us. So, even if you weren't a pedestrian that used sidewalks, or even if you weren't someone who, was a cyclist, again, back in my ward, when you think about South Caraway or think about Harrisburg Road around Neighborhood Market going towards Central Baptist, when you have, particularly in South Caraway, when you have so many folks maybe walking from Craighead Commons, etc., to amenities such as movie theaters, or maybe they work in some of those locations, and right now we don't have sidewalks there, which I understand that, we're going to try to wait till we expand the road so we don't pay the money to build sidewalks, tear them up, do it again, but we need them there. Our office is actually down there, and I see all the time, even people in a wheelchair being pushed, to the Exxon or to any other area there. But back to to tie it to your question, which is that, if pedestrians are having to be dodged by motorists, well, the motorists are impacted by that, and we're all connected, and we're all, a rising tide lifts all boats, and so I think that every citizen here has to care about the future of Jonesboro.
That's right.
And to care about our future means to care about all of the people of the city.
Yes, the majority of people have children, and eventually their children may have children that will reside here in the city. So it's not about dealing with what's presently going on. We have to have that forward thinking. It's okay, 5, 10, 20 years from now, what do we want to see our city look like? What amenities do we wish to have? What improvements do we hope to see?
Well, and you're so right, because it takes time to make things happen. So 5 or 10 years isn't all that far away. For example, our Stormwater Management Board this morning, we were discussing the drainage plan through like 2021, 2022, just because when you have a limited amount of money, you got to say, hey, we're going to spend X this year, and then the next year we're going to do this project. And it's the same for roads and sidewalks and any of those things, that if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. And so I know that the council and the mayor have done a good job of trying to be very intentional about the moves that we make, and we're going to continue to need to do so. But as the city grows, and we mentioned that 8-page agenda last night, it's sometimes more difficult to be proactive, because you got all the rapid fire coming at you, a lot of important decisions that have to be made, but sometimes you got to allot time for that planning and to be more proactive.
Okay. Alrighty, so based on what was discussed, was any type of decision made besides let's carried on to the next meeting concerning the bike paths or trails? Or...
Well, so we have now funded a study to decide where those paths should go, what makes the most sense, all those kind of things. And it's going to take about 270 days for that study to come back from the engineers. And then once that comes back, and if council approves it, it'll then be part of the master street plan. And then it'll be easier for the grants department in the city to go out and to say a Kellogg Foundation or Walton's or Highway Department, whoever, and say, here's our plan, here's the resources the city can invest, but we need y'all to partner with us in this way.
Okay. I want to go back to one of the bigger issues was, of course, like you said, the Gladiolus apartment issue. Well, the developer wanted to put some apartments there. The residents say, no, we don't need anything extra. Okay. Can that area be rezoned, or has the residents said, okay, maybe if they came back, a developer came with another plan, say for a smaller complex or individual family units, would they be willing to come back to the table to discuss something else, or they just don't want anything in that?
Yeah, I don't know the answer, from the developer standpoint. I mean, since they pulled from the agenda last night, obviously they're trying to tweak, change, whatever the proposal to try to gain resident support.
Okay.
But I know from the 1,000+ people that have signed the petition, the great concern about multifamily is, one, for the school district, and the school district has publicly expressed their concern. And then if they didn't secure another access to Parker Road, then we know that there's a lot of traffic concerns. So that they'd have quite a few issues there to work through if they had any possibility of gaining any support from the residents. At this point, that would seem pretty difficult.
Once again, we are speaking with Mr. L.J. Bryant, Jonesboro City Councilman for Ward 5, Position 1. Again, if you have any questions, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080 or weigh in on our Facebook Live feed.
What I would like to see, yes, apartments are okay for what they are. I would love to see more individual family units that are affordable. I'm sorry.
You all right?
Bless your heart.
I'm so sorry.
Well, I think what she was saying is she wants to see more single family units and provide a way for these units to be affordable. I think one of the things that prices people out is, maybe access to credit or financing to get houses, or the price of the houses themselves just may be too expensive. I'm sure that many of these people who live in apartments, if they had the same opportunity to live in a house, even if it was a small starter home, they would do that. And not only that, with them being homeowners, they would take pride in the property and have a vested interest in keeping it up, which I'm sure that's another concern of the people who are against the apartment complex. When you're a renter and you rent the apartment complex, somebody else owns it, so you don't feel as strong of a sense of responsibility as if you own it and you're responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of it.
Yes, definitely. And we've talked about this with the mayor once before. There are a lot of communities that are building these tiny house communities. And those would be great starter homes for, say, a couple with no children, single person, elderly couple that wants to move out of the bigger house, there's I don't know if it's a developer or company as close as Wilson. We looked it up while the mayor was here one day. Anyway, they offer a lease to buy type program, and then once you've purchased the home, you build some equity, then you can take that and invest in a larger home if you so choose, or continue living in the smaller home. I would love to see some of that maybe pop up in Jonesboro. We have a lot of space, and I know, again, it goes back to rezoning and what's best for the space, what's best for the city and the infrastructure and things of that nature. It's a lot more that goes into I just want to take this property and put some little houses on it. I know it's more to it than that, but going forward 5 to 10, 20 years from now, I would like to see that. So.
Sure. Well, and I think you got to have a vision and speak it into being, right? Like what it was like, Field of Dreams.
Okay. And this segment has went by very quickly. It's all good though. We still got a wrap up coming up. We're speaking with Mr. L.J. Bryant, Jonesboro City Councilman for Ward 5, Position 1, and we're gonna just kind of wrap things up when we come back from the break. And we're still taking your calls and your questions, your comments, and your shutouts. This is Community Conversations, and this is Kate. KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Infomercials can be irresistible. To help avoid problems when purchasing products advertised through infomercials, the Better Business Bureau recommends that you take these steps. Read and understand the fine print. Make sure you know purchase and return policies, restocking fees, and exchange options. Review the seller's privacy policy. Learn if your name and other information will be sold or used to solicit for other offers. Obtain a specific delivery time. Be suspicious if the business cannot supply this information. Pay by credit card and keep those receipts. Check your billing and financial statement regularly for only authorized transactions. For more information about purchasing products and registering complaints, visit bbb.org. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. 5 locations in Jonesboro to serve you. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
Starks Auto Plaza, your pre-owned superstore, is a longtime supporter of KLEK. 2829 Red Wolf Boulevard, Starks offers clean, reliable vehicles of all makes and models. Starks also offers no-hassle pricing, friendly service, financing options with approved credit. At Starks, you're always family, and our motto is, we never say no. 870-203-9980. StarksAutoPlaza.com.
Arkansas Early Learning prepares children up to 5 years old for kindergarten by offering a secure learning environment, qualified teachers at several locations in Northeast Arkansas at no cost. Applications are available at arearlylearning.org.
Arkansas Early Learning is a nonprofit organization.
Fullness of Joy Ministries, 2120 Thorn Street in Jonesboro presents Live at the Joy, August 18th, 2017. Service begins at 7 o'clock p.m. with special guest speaker Marvin Sapp. More information is available at fojministries.org or 870-930-9569.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations with our guest, L.J. Bryant, Ward 5, Position 1 of the Jonesboro City Council. We got a shout-out. I actually had someone text me and shouted me out. Shout-out to Nikki Vorns. Nikki, appreciate you for checking in. And, of course, if you want to ask a question for Mr. Bryant, you can call us at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. Or you can also weigh in on our Facebook Live feed. And we got another Facebook shout out to Helen Scott, which you can check out this Saturday on Our Thoughts on the Matter. And Helen says the game Monopoly should have included zoning, smiley face. Well, Kabila, we did the income inequality Monopoly. Maybe your professor may have a version or can come up with a version that includes zoning ordinances, and we can play it on the air.
Okay, a city-based version. Like, give people a real view of what it's like to live and work and play and make plans for a city. Absolutely. That would be awesome. So we want to thank you so much for, joining us and sharing your thoughts and views and, everything you have to offer to the City Council. And, thank you to your family for standing behind you while you take this journey. So any final thoughts or views? I know we were kind of talking about the, creating a vision and trying to put it into action, because we have to be forward thinking when it comes to where you live, or anywhere, anybody, anywhere. You can't just say, I'm going to plan for today. You have to think about the upcoming years and the generations that are coming up? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Well, I know we're running out of time. I'll just try to say a few things kind of quickly to answer that. You know, somebody recently said to me, and it sounds simple, but it is, that managers maintain and leaders lead.
Okay.
So, I mean, the council has both responsibilities. We have a responsibility to manage the taxpayer resources and to be good stewards of city property, you know, you name it.
Okay.
But we have a responsibility to lead and cast a vision. And to go back and kind of wrap up on your tiny house vision, I mean, it's amazing what Wilson has done and other places around the country. But back to vision, take somebody like Heather Clements or Ted Hargett or others that have built, you know, some really quality or different developments. Or I was on Vine Street yesterday as an agent at some apartments. Somebody built some nice duplexes across the street. So I think, you know, it's important that we try to redevelop what we already have, because we talked about that 78.5 square miles, so we don't want to sprawl anymore. I visited with some folks at ASU. You know, we have electric co-ops, we have educational co-ops. There's some talk that in other areas of the country there have been real estate co-ops. And so a co-op where a bunch of people could put some money in and spread the risk could take some more risks to maybe do some lease to owns or, you know, riskier things that somebody might not do if it was just them on the line.
Okay.
But anyway, I just think all those opportunities are really exciting. And I think back to what we've all discussed, it's important to encourage home ownership because that makes those people even better citizens and makes them something about when you put your hands in the dirt and get your fingernails dirty,
Yes.
you really feel more connected.
Yes, sir, most definitely. And so, when is the next city council meeting?
Yep. So 2 weeks from last night. We're the first and third Tuesday.
Okay.
So actually, in August, that's not true. So it doesn't work out quite like that.
Okay, so it won't be until September.
Yeah, that's right. So
September the 5th.
That's right. And certainly, I mean, citizens, man, you're so encouraged to attend. And sometimes when there's a hot zoning issue, that crowd gets there early and it fills up.
Like 4 o'clock early.
That's right. That's exactly right. Now, in instances where that's not the case, then, you know, the crowd isn't as much. But what's so awesome is our city clerk, that office does such a great job of putting the meetings online. And we were sitting here looking on your iPad on the page there, but you could watch the video from any committee meeting, our meeting last night. And certainly we encourage people to do that. And if you have thoughts, questions, concerns, I just want to remind people that my cell phone's 819-7218, and to email me, lbryant@jonesboro.org. Find me on Facebook, like my page. Just I want to have a conversation with the citizens of Jonesboro about how we can build our future together.
And as always, we want to encourage everyone to go to www.jonesboro.org, click on the various links, and leave your messages. They also have a tab where you can submit suggestions. Suggestions. And the city council.
Let your voice be heard.
The city council member take those seriously. So
You betcha. Yeah, you contact me. I'm going to get back with you definitely within 24 hours, probably sooner than that. But I mean, if I'm at my day job, I may not be able to get back to you as quickly. But certainly, I want to be extremely responsive to listen to your ideas and hear your concerns.
Alrighty. So
as we get ready to wind down, we got about 2.5 minutes left. So we want to thank Mr. Bryant for stopping by the studio. Is there anything else that you wanted to say to the constituents, the citizens of Jonesboro, that we may not have covered?
I just think this is awesome to have an opportunity to visit, because so often maybe you get to give a 2 or 3 minute speech and you can't really say anything. So it's just so awesome to really give some quality attention to a lot of topics. And so thank y'all.
Well, and that's what we do here with Community Conversations. We provide the whole hour. Some people, don't want the whole hour. Some people say, well, I'm just good with 20 minutes, but we make the whole show available because we want people to hear from our elected officials and give them the opportunity to interact with them, ask them questions and their concerns. And there's been opportunities when that's been taken care of. I remember when the property code came, the studio was jumping. I think as the younger people say, it was lit when the property code issue was coming up. But, that's what it's all about, providing a place for dialogue between elected officials and constituents, because we all live in the city together and we all have to get along together. That's so right. Why not try, or as Chief Elliott would say, let's talk to each other and not at each other.
Yes. Well said.
And also shout out to Paul Holmes, who retired yesterday. I got a chance to go to his retirement reception. And actually, Chief Elliott put me on the spot. I was just, trying to in the back just mingling, and the chief called me and said, "Laganza Gale, General Manager, KLEK, come up and say some words." But Paul's a good guy, and so Paul, definitely congratulations on your retirement. He's gonna say he's gonna relax, kick back, and enjoy his grandchild. So
We're going to have to get him back in the studio one more time, though.
All right, so Paul, if you're listening, the invite has been issued.
All right, so what you said today, you have a lot of more city business to handle?
Yeah, and mostly the visits with the department heads. I'm visiting with the city planner this afternoon and the parks director, just kind of get a first-hand feel and look at some issues, and because it's really important to understand process and procedure so that when issues come up, you know how to frame it and how to handle it and how the process works.
All right. Well, we thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
And we appreciate each and every one of you for listening. We thank Mr. Bryant once again for stopping in. He represents Ward 5, Position 1 of the Jonesboro City Council. May you guys have a great and blessed day. This is Community Conversations, and this is KLEK 102.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK LP